hey, you filed your tax returns and it was accepted. You got the notice saying it was accepted. You're super stoked about it. You did your taxes right. Correct? Well, not necessarily. It doesn't mean you're not going to be audited. Sometimes those happen. Audits can happen 2, 3 years down the road, right? There's a statute of limitations, 3 years, there's a general rule. And a lot of times they happen about 2 years later. But accepted still means that you've at least met the minimum threshold for the requirement. It doesn't mean the IRS has looked at your return or anything. It's just past some of the automatic testing thresholds and you're able to get past that. So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the different phases of the tax return so you know from accepted all the way through the process where your tax return is and what's happening in each of those situations. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the process so that way we can get better acquainted with what's happening with our tax return. All right, so this is what's happening when you first submit your tax return. So when you push submit, you've paid your fees and all that stuff. What's going to happen is the tax software is going to submit your return. At that point, the IRS receives a return and it's going to do a format for completeness. It's going to make sure that everything that is suspected to be filled out is going to be filled out. No required amounts or boxes are not left blank. Then it's going to do an identity check. So it's going to run through and it's going to say, okay, social security names, does that actually match the taxpayer? So it's doing that cross-reference to make sure you are who you say you are. Then it's going to do a date validation. What is your date of birth as well? So it's going to continue to go through there. These are identity type of checks. It's going to make sure there's no duplicate. So it wants to make sure that a return hasn't already been filed. This is why sometimes it's recommended that you're going to actually file early because there's so much fraud out there where somebody will sit there and try to file a return and claim a big refund and then take that money, right? So sometimes you're going to get noticed, oh, wait, hey, your return was already filed, and you're like, darn it, and you have to go through that process of getting all that corrected. So that's the duplicate check, making sure that that wasn't done there. And then it's doing a basic math check for accuracy. It's making sure that everything looks correct just through their basic math compliance check. So those are the first steps that are happening. That's when you're going to get your, hey, you're accepted. This is great, right? So then what we need to do is we need to move on and figure out what's the processes that are occurring beyond that process. But before we do that, let's look at some of the misunderstandings that sometimes occur when we're looking at the accepted portion. So there's oftentimes confusion as to what accepted actually means. So acceptance usually occurs sometimes within minutes and sometimes a few hours. Now it's an automated process and nobody's actually looking at it. So let's clear up some of the confusion when you're looking at what accepted actually means. So sometimes people think, aha, my refund is approved. Accepted and approval are not the same things, okay? So approval still has a while to go till you get to the approval portion of it. So right now, once it's been accepted, you're still processing. It's still going through the processing thing. Because what happens is the IRS has not done a detailed review yet. They've gone through that automatic processing. They're checking for accuracy. They're checking for identity. They're doing those things. But it hasn't been reviewed by the IRS yet. So that's when it'll get into the processing portion of it. Because of that, when you get it accepted, it doesn't mean you're not going to be audited. As a matter of fact, as I mentioned before, audits often happen 2 years after you submit your tax return. So an audit can still occur if you're going to be audited, right? The statute of limitations is your 3 years on that. And then finally, that money is guaranteed. No, refunds can change for several reasons. You may not qualify for a certain refund. So there's all kinds of things that can happen. Maybe you have a debt that is a pre-existing debt, and the federal offset, the Treasury offset program is going to allow the Bureau of Financial Services to go ahead and to apply your refund to a debt for, say, state taxes that you previously owed, federal taxes, student loans, things like that. Maybe back child support. So it'll go back to those types of things. So it doesn't mean that you're going to get that amount that you think you're getting on the refund. All right, well, let's look at the different processes beyond accepted so we can see where things are. So if you're looking at the site, you can see exactly where you stand on your processing. So here's the different processes that you'll see. So the first one's going to be when you see accepted, it means that the IRS has processed your return. So it went through those automatic type of determinations, things like the identity. Have you previously been submitted a return this year or not? Those types of things. Then what you do is you go through the second step where the IRS is verifying your incomes and your credits. So they're making sure that, okay, you qualify for this credit, or this is what your W-2 goes. So they'll look at the W-2s, and there will be some type of automatic math checking to make sure that that they actually exist. So that's where you'll see your transcripts start to update because they're going through that process. Step number 3, your refund will eventually be approved, and that's when you get your approved status. After you get your approved status, that's when the refund is going to be sent, and it's going to be sent either by check or what everybody's moving to now is that hold direct deposit. So you're probably going to see it being directly deposited. So that's the process that you're using when you're going through it, so you know exactly what is happening in each of those situations. Now, again, even after the refund is sent, you can still be audited because, like I've been telling you, the audit takes usually a couple years until you get a notice of an audit, and then it depends on the type of audit that you're going to have, whether it's going to be a correspondence type of audit, or if it's an office visit, or if it's going to be a visit at your actual location, a field visit. All right, well, let's go ahead and let's start to wrap this video up. All right, so you've done everything you could. You've got your tax return accepted. You filed it. It's been accepted, but you're not getting this refund. So you may be wondering, hey, what's happening? Why am I not getting this refund yet? Well, there are several reasons that there could be a delay. One of them is because you're claiming the earned income tax credit or the additional child tax credit. And based on those, there's something called the PATH Act. And the PATH Act goes ahead and it says, hey, we can't even start processing your return or giving refunds, I should say. We can't even issue refunds until mid-February. So if you filed early in the season, so late January, well, you're going to have to wait a little bit before you can even be issued a refund. Usually, that's not until maybe March 8th, in that range, where you'll start seeing the refunds that are coming through direct deposit and things like that. So it's a mandatory IRS holding period. Other things that could cause delays is a premium tax credit. Those have to be reconciled. That takes some additional time. You'll be using Form 8962 in order to be doing that. Identity verification can sometimes be an issue, so that could be a problem. And then sometimes what happens is when they're doing the comparison between what you're claiming on your return and then they're looking at what the W-2 say or what some of the other information filings say that they already have, they're going to say, hey, that doesn't match, and they're going to have to go through the process with that, which can also delay when you're going to actually receive your tax refund. All right, if this video has been helpful, go ahead and subscribe to this channel, and thank you for watching. I hope your tax season is going well.